Well, hello everybody. How are you all today? Thank you so much for coming. Um, do I sound all right? Everything look all right? Let me know if anything's weird. Today we're going a little off the beaten path. Oh, hi, this is Wine and Reason, the YouTube channel. We're going a little off. Oh, and I'm Julie, your host. Hey, Robert X. Yeah, really quickly. Hey, Harmonica Man, how you doing? Good to hear from you. Hey, Robert X. Hi, Mega Nuts. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Godless Granny. Hi, Never Again. It's so nice to have all of you here. Very cool. Yeah, so we're going a little off-brand today. Hey, hi, Dave. Hugs. There's a small story behind this lighter that I'm going to tell you while everyone else comes in. And those of you who were on time will get the extra cuteness. Hey, little wolf. This is that was what I'm sorry, that voice was left over from my teacher days. I apologize. Oh, I know I am. So this is like your classic mud flap you'd see on a big rig truck, right? Except it has fairy wings. And this lighter's been around since the 1990s. It was my best friend's, and she was getting rid of some stuff, and she was like, I don't need this. Do you want it? And I was like, yes. Yes, I do. So I'm a little fairy wing mud flap Zippo there. All right. Okay. And people are already posting links in the chat. Yes, please do that. Post everybody's links if you've got a wrench. And if you don't have one and you want one, let me know. Excuse me. All right. So we're going a little off the beaten trail today. I kind of got inspired by something that Junk Shop read from the Holy Bible yesterday. I did. I got inspired, largely because it made me very angry, because I thought it was incredibly irresponsible, especially given how people live their lives by this book, right? Hey, Ox, love you too, and yeah, little black hearts to everyone. So, yeah, the Holy Bible, the King James version, anyway. So it's in Ecclesiastes, chapter 2, verse 26. I think it's the last verse in that chapter. And what's really funny to me is that the very next chapter, chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes, is one of my favorite things that's in the Bible. I have very few favorite verses from the Bible. But this one, and probably because it was made into a very memorable song, by a very famous band, that doesn't hurt. I grew up hearing this song, and it's actually rather comforting. It's just, but it's the to every thing there is a season bit, and I like that. That part I like. I always wondered about the time to cast away stones and the time to gather stones together. I always imagined like people gathering little piles of stones, and I'm like, is that for building a cairn or a building? And if so, why would you cast them away? I don't know. Anyway, it was very confusing. But beyond that, yeah, it's lovely. It's a lovely poem about life, and one thing that really hasn't changed in human existence is that cycle of, we're born, we live, hopefully we live, we grow up, hopefully if we're lucky, and eventually we die, and that's just how it is. So it's just sort of nice, and we've got that nice metaphor of the seasons of the year, and of the world turning as well, just all kind of wrapped up into that. But the part that made me angry was chapter 2, verse 26. And verse 26 is, and this is King James, this is in the public domain. Oh my gosh, this is so tiny. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to use my super myopic power, because I have 20/1600 vision, so I can actually read this better if I get really close to it without my glasses. This is gonna look really weird to you guys though. And I'm gonna have to shut one eye. Okay. For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he giveth travail to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. So essentially it's saying if you're a good person, good things happen to you. But if you sin, bad things happen to you, and it's your own damn fault. And there's a similar line in here that that I didn't write down, but that Junk Shop read yesterday, that also suggests that if you're poor, it's your fault. Because God made the rich and he made the poor poor, and the rich are supposed to do charity. There's a lot of rules, for example, in the Talmud about exactly how much charity you can and can't do. I'm not going to get into that because I don't have a good source for it, and also I'm not Jewish, so I don't want to talk about. I don't want to get too far into that. But it's just frustrating, because you can see how an idea like that, the idea that if you're a bad person, bad things happen to you. I mean, people, this is a question human beings have struggled with for so long, right? Why did bad things happen to good people? Right? I mean, if you were ever a church-going person, you heard that at some point. At some point, your priest, your preacher, your reverend gave some kind of sermon, or whatever y'all call it in your specific church, about why bad things happen to good people. Now, you've also got that line in the Bible about the sin, the wages of sin are death, right? And those kinds of things. And a lot of that does make sense, even though I hate the word sin. But like, let's say you murder someone, in not that long ago, and even today, sometimes someone from their family might hunt you down and murder you in retaliation, right? Revenge is a thing that happens. Yeah. I agree, y'all. I agree, Little Wolf and Robert X, about God there. At least in the Bible, how he's, yeah. So, and it's interesting also to me how this is, this sort of idea and other ideas, like in Paul, and other parts of the Bible, where it talks about repenting, and things like that, how these things influenced judicial systems in so many Western countries. And I would absolutely love to be able to cite like specific jurisprudence, but I'm not that cool. I could have gone to law school. I was an English major. That is something that a lot of folks do. If they major in English, they usually end up teaching English or going into law school. I did not go to law school, so and not wanting to spread incorrect information. But I did take this class in graduate school that was about sort of the difference between the Pauline, or like Western, using Paul, and what, and all his letters to the Corinthians and some other things that really, and how that affected the judicial systems in the West, as opposed to the Yonine or Book of John version, that seemed to affect, say, Russian Orthodox Christianity, for example. So, but I'm not going to get all up in contextual studies, except that at the same time that Junk Shop was doing their show yesterday, I had just started reading, and Mama Atheist, yes, I know we're supposed to be reading Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I haven't read it in years, and I need to reread it, but we haven't found it yet. We're still unpacking boxes. So, well, as soon as we find it, we'll read it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, Godless Granny. Oh, yeah, that's right. I've got you in there. Okay. Well, Godless Granny, yeah, I wanted to talk about punitive, like punishments within the judicial system, particularly solitary confinement. And also the fact that we used to do corporal punishment. And I don't know if that's still a thing on any level or not. So if you know, Godless Granny, please let me know. If corporal punishment is still used in the prison system, I would very much like to know that. But the great thing about Margaret Atwood is that she will become obsessed with something, and she'll write, and she will do tons of research on it. So what she became obsessed with, yeah, maybe Godless Granny. I'm not even sure how you would put that, but like, if a prisoner gets a shot, or gets they do something that they're not supposed to do, like what happens to them. So yeah, so back to Atwood, she'll write. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Gallows Granny. Yes, no, it's considered cruel and unusual punishment. Thank you. Good to know. Okay, I thought we didn't, but I just wanted, it's certainly not officially, but I just wanted to know for sure. So thank you. That's amazing, and I'm glad. I think that solitary confinement should also be considered cruel and unusual punishment. I understand that you have to do something. Oh, I just said not officially because I'm sure stuff goes on that we don't know about. I mean, I don't know. I tend to think the worst. So yeah. Anyway, all right. So let me see here. So the reason these two things connected in my head was because of Junk Shop Show, and because I was reading Alias Grace. Ooh, here we go, by Margaret Atwood. There we are. And just to cover myself here, I'm going to give you the citation information on the book, which I think should be in the notes. But if I didn't put the full citation in the notes, I apologize. This was published by Anchor Books, a division of Random House Inc. in New York, New York. And the copyright date is 1996. Okay, so I'm just going to read a teeny bit. It's not, and this should be considered fair use. I'd be shocked if it weren't. All credit to Margaret Atwood and Random House Publishing and all of that. So at one point, for speaking, for screaming, essentially, the main character in this book has and this is based on an actual murder case that happened in Canada in the mid 19th century. So I also have a link to an article online from Smithsonian Magazine entitled "The Mysterious Murder Case That Inspired Margaret Atwood's Alias Grace." And that is linked in the description as well. So yeah, and yes, you know what, Gallows Granny makes a good point here. Sometimes solitary is for the protection of the prisoner, especially for certain crimes of notorious people. And you're absolutely right. There are some people that if they were put into general population, they would not survive. And we saw that with Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, turns out there's certain stuff that jailhouse justice is a thing, and I don't. That's a weird, might be a misnomer, but there are certain crimes that even hardcore criminals don't want or will not put up with, and yeah, and we know that people, pedophiles do not do well in prison. Mothers who have killed their children do not do well in prison. Funnily enough, former teachers tend to do very well in prison. So hopefully I will never break the law and never get sent to prison, or get sent there for something I didn't do or whatever. And maybe the former teacher thing will at least keep me from getting my glasses broken on the first day, which is pretty much what I think would happen. I guess I just don't think I'd do well. All right. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not cool. You're right, Lone Wanderer. And I did not mean to make it sound sound that like it was okay, because it's not. It's really not. It's vigilante justice, essentially, which is not justice. And I'm against the death penalty as well. So I don't think it's okay for somebody, to kill someone in prison because they did something really hateful and awful. Although sometimes, although I will say I do understand the impulse. I did. Yeah. Okay. So what really, again, like I said, Margaret Atwood is an amazing researcher. And what really got me about this book were she includes a lot of bits and pieces from the actual time and from like articles that were written during this. And then she also includes, and this is what freaked me out and kind of got me thinking about that whole, thing that, God will bring travail upon sinners, but this is also a vanity and bad for the spirit, according to Ecclesiastes. I can talk, I promise. And it's because because bad things happen to bad people because they deserve it, and so don't worry about it too much. There's also a later bit in chapter 5 that talks about if something terrible is happening in a neighboring village, don't worry about it. The Lord Almighty will take care of it. And so basically it's like, if atrocities are happening around you, no worries, it's not your problem. God will handle it. And that is the worst possible message you can give to human beings. It's like, oh, we don't have to fix anything. We don't have to stand up and say, hey, that's wrong. Hey, Drew, Lover One, good to see you. It's been a minute. And yeah, and hello to Lone Wanderer. Oh yeah, I'll do that in a moment. I'm sorry. But yes, so it's that part is really disturbing as well. And I think all of this kind of plays into how we function as a society. We're taking advice from a book that's thousands of years old and going, yeah, we should still be acting that way. And hopefully not. I mean, hopefully we've grown a bit, as a society and as a culture. Yeah. So, oh, this is interesting. So Never Again says, I never did anything to deserve it, but I did have to go into the buildings for trash run. And trust me, that convinced me I never wanted to end up in those buildings. Yeah, I believe you. Terrifying, actually. And that's why I really admire that, we have a history in this country of protesters being jailed. Martin Luther King Jr. was quite famously jailed. And I really admire anyone who goes to jail as a matter of conscience and a matter of belief, while they're trying to make the world a better place, and end up, hopefully not for a long time, but end up in prison or worse. And goes back to that vigilante justice again. That's not justice. Okay, so here we go. So this is taken from the punishment book for the Kingston Penitentiary. There we go. 1843. And again, this is in Canada. This is outside of Toronto. Kingston's a ways from Toronto. And here are the offenses. I'm going to read the offense, and then I'm going to read the punishment. Okay. So the offense: laughing and talking, 6 lashes, cat o' nine tails. Okay, so y'all know what a cat o' nine tails is, right? And I'm not talking about anything that any fun BDSM here. I'm talking about actual cat o' nine tails. It has the knots in it. It will leave marks on you and quite probably make you bleed if you're beaten with one. Sometimes particularly cruel people would tie nails or pieces of broken glass in with the knots if making someone bleed was the point. this is not good. It's not a fun thing, and I'm quite happy that this is a punishment that no longer exists in Canada or the US. Although people still can be lashed in some other countries. Yeah, it will flay your skin. Never again. Yes, ma'am. It will. That's freaking horrible. Okay. All right. I gotta get through this list, and it's gonna, yeah, just trigger warning. It's a little rough. So that's what you get for 6 lashes for laughing and talking. Because, you know, you should be in quiet contemplation of what you did. Yes. Oh, thank you, Paul. Yes, sir. You are so correct. And see, your lot have learned that. We still haven't over here. We're still like, no, just, yeah, it's not good. Okay. Talking in wash house, 6 lashes with rawhide. Slightly better, I guess. Threatening to knock convicts' brains out, 24 lashes, cat o' nine tails. Talking to keepers. Now, keepers were like prison guards or matrons in this case because it was a women's prison. Talking to keepers on matters not related to their work, 6 lashes, cat o' nine tails. And here's a question. What if the keeper initiates the conversation? Can you get in trouble for not answering her? That's, you know, that's a little, that was one of my first thoughts when I read that one, talking to keepers on matters not related to their work. Like what if a keeper is having a bad day and just wants to take it out on somebody? I can see how that could be used against a prisoner very quickly and easily. Anyway, finding fault with rations when required by guards to sit down. Okay, that's very specific. That's one of those where you're like, okay, what exactly happened because of the required by guards to sit down? I mean, they had to sit at meal times, and if they, and basically you couldn't complain about the food. Okay. 6 lashes, rawhide, and bread and water, which means now you're not getting I think they usually, cabbage was often on the menu, but you're not getting anything green. You're not getting anything with vitamin C in it. It's bread and water. That's it. Staring about and inattentive at breakfast table, punishment, bread and water. So, okay. Ooh, hey, everybody, check this out. Watch this. It will shock you. 5-star prisons with low repeat offenders. Thank you, Paul. We will check that out. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. Leaving work and going to privy when other convicts there. Does that mean when other convicts are in the privy? I think that is. If it's grammatically correct, that's what it should mean. 36 hours in dark cell and bread and water. So that's all from the punishment book for the Kingston Penitentiary. Grace, the main character in Atwood's book, is put into solitary confinement in a cell with a mattress, a bucket for necessary uses, and and that is and is given bread and water. And she gets to a point rather quickly when she's in there, and she's been in solitary before, so it's not something she's super unused to, but it's not fun, and so she writes, or Margaret Atwood rather writes, trying to describe it. Here we go. It's morning now, but which one? The second or the third? There's fresh light outside the window. That's what woke me. I struggle upright, pinch myself, and blink my eyes, and get up stiff-limbed from the rustling mattress. Then I sing a song just to hear a voice and keep myself company. And the song she sings is Holy, Holy, Holy Lord God Almighty. And then after she finishes, she says, they can hardly object if it's a hymn to the morning. I've always been fond of sunrise. So this is somebody, and at this point, she's 24 years old. She's been in this prison in Kingston since she was 16 years old. And actually, her sentence has been commuted. She was originally sentenced in the book to death, and I think in real life as well, but it was commuted to life. The interesting thing about this murder case, there's so many interesting things actually, and this is not a true crime YouTube channel, so I'm gonna let you guys, read more about it as you wish, but all of the stories conflict. We know when it happened, July 1843 in Upper Canada, when it was still a British colony. It happened in the province of Ontario. Kinnear was a gentleman of Scottish origin, and his and Nancy, his housekeeper, were brutally murdered, and they think it was by 20-year-old James McDermott and 16-year-old Grace Marks, who were both Irish immigrants. Now, it is true that the two were caught with money and clothing that they'd stolen from the house, and McDermott did hang for this and was executed for it. He blamed the whole thing on he blamed the whole thing on Grace, saying it was her idea, and then whereas she said she had nothing to do with it. And then their stories changed a bit. Yeah, this really is the punishment edition. Hey, Nerdy wrote it. I know, it was quite literal. I can be that way. Yeah, so it's a bizarre thing, and I'm just, and then at the same time, there's this doctor of, well, he would have been called an alienist then, but this psychologist tries to talk to her because murderesses are rare, right? It especially at that time, it wasn't. And I think even now, I don't think as many women commit murder as men, but I'm not saying that one gender is better than one of the other genders. It just seems to be, I don't know, that's how it goes. But I don't have a stat for that in the modern world. But at this time, murderesses were rare. Doctors had come by wanting to measure her head before, because they wanted to see if there was a reason in phrenology that would could show a difference between someone who might be a murderer and someone who might not be. It's just and if you don't know what phrenology is, it was this really nutty thing that people used to do, where they would measure the shape of the head and feel around on the scalp for bumps and things, and then tell you stuff about you. And some of the old, I mean, it's like this close to reading stuff off of a crystal ball or in tarot cards or something. It's so nutty. Maybe closer to palmistry on some level, but you can still find every once in a while in an old antique shop, you might find a porcelain, looks like a blank mannequin head, and it'll have all of these regions mapped out on it with different, association, emotional things and other stuff painted on in those certain regions. It's fascinating. Nerdy Rona, you have an elongated face. I think that just means you have an elongated face, as far as I can tell. Yeah, exactly, purple. There we go. Yeah, purple. Yep, bumps in the skull. Predicted who would be a criminal. Absolutely. All right, not really quickly. Now is the time. I need to thank my patrons in chronological order. The Lone Wanderer, A Bit of Tea in Danish, Captain Timothy, Mark Caesar, Sandy the Saint, and all of you are the reason that this show gets to keep going. And I really cannot say how much it means to me that you're actually giving me money for something you could see for free, especially the way things are now in the world. It's really hard for a lot of us out here. So thank you so much. And your support also helps me support other people in turn. So it's just kind of this lovely, it's like we've got a tip jar just kind of going around our little community, and I love it. It's awesome. So thank you all so much for that. So while I can't recommend the Holy Bible wholeheartedly, read it if you want to. Do tune into Improv Bible Study with Junk Shop Library, though, because that shit's amazing and they're awesome. And that's what actually inspired me to look at this today. I can absolutely recommend Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. And if you would like to see a really good adaptation of it, Netflix did it as a series as well. So Alias Grace is a series too. But Margaret Atwood's writing is so good, and it's just fascinating. And she says that because of the conflicting accounts of the crime, she felt like she could take some artistic license with how she wrote it happening. Another interesting part was that Grace Marks claimed to have lost her memory of that day. So the young alienist who comes to try and figure her out, and he's actually got some pretty good ideas. He's been studying all over Europe. Some of his ideas they're cutting edge for the time. I'm not saying they're fantastic, but they are good for the time. It's better than a lot of the stuff that was done to people. Certainly cleaner and more hygienic conditions. They'd finally realized that was important, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I'll just refer to it as the book of really bad advice. Never again. Yeah, and war crimes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really is, and that's why I really it just the more I was reading about this, the more I was reading this fictionalized version of a prisoner who, had been a good prisoner for yeah, you're right, never again. Yeah, depending on where you end up, absolutely. I can attest to that, given some nursing homes I've been in. They're terrifying. And yeah. Okay. Now that we're all, and that's okay, never again, because I like to bring everybody down. That's my brand. So now that we're all a little depressed, what was fascinating to me was the way Grace has taught herself to act in this situation. Because keep in mind, she was 16 when she was incarcerated. And then her sentence was commuted. And so now, by the time she's 24, she's had a lot of time to learn how to act as a prisoner and how to not get in trouble. And she does a lot of just looking at her shoes when she walks. She has a way of making her gaze look vacant and stupid, so that they'll just assume that she's stupid and just kind of leave her alone. Because it's basically, so, if they think you're simple, they don't make you talk as much about yourself, which is probably the only privacy she has. She did spend 19 months in an asylum, and that was very bad. She was, by a couple of accounts, or by her own account rather, she was, well, as she put it, the doctors took liberties, which is, that's coded language for they did stuff they were not supposed to. Good, never again. I'm glad you're not depressed. Oh, sorry, honey. I love you. Yeah, it's been a rough day. All right, for me anyway. If I get depressed, I just remember Dave's yoga ball exploding and I feel better. Oh, thank you, Dirty Rodent. And thank you, Dave, for that. Since you didn't get hurt, that was one of the funniest things ever. I mean, I know it wasn't comfortable, but okay. Yeah, that's wow. I feel like I had more to say about this, but I am suddenly. Oh no, I do. I do have more to say about this. I apologize. Wow, I am really scattered. I am sorry about that. Okay, so 1843, British colony. Um, all right. Okay. McDermott had also previously been a soldier in a Canadian regiment. Marks had worked as a servant in a number of different households. That neither of them had any what we would call priors today, and so it was bizarre. It was a grisly crime, and it was kind of bizarre. Um, yeah. Um, the big question that has never been solved is whether both parties were equally culpable, because we honestly just don't know. McDermott spun this story about how Mary led him on and said that if he helped her kill Nancy, who was mean to her, and that then she would run away with him and they could be together. But then he said, but then after they killed Nancy, um, let's see, the gentleman Kinnear came home early, and he had to shoot Kinnear because they still hadn't gotten rid of Nancy's body entirely. He said he had just thrown it down down the cellar steps. This is one really messed up thing that they both, I think, was in both of their stories, but I would need to do as much research as Margaret Atwood did. But at least in the book and in the Netflix series, the original blows to Nancy and her being thrown down the stairs didn't kill her. She was still alive. And then, and this is where another conflicting part, according to Grace, she had nothing to do with killing either person. According to McDermott, Grace then strangled Nancy with a scarf. So yeah, we don't know. Yeah, so it's a weird one. It's a fascinating one, and it sparked a really great novel out of a truly great writer. So if you wanna pick up Alias Grace and read it, I highly recommend it. It's also fun if you like historical fiction, because I certainly do. I love history, and I particularly like I like historical fiction if it's well researched, because then you get to kind of feel like you're doing a day in the life. You're getting to see through a character's eyes, what living in a certain place at a certain time might have been like. And if it's not well researched, though, it tends to piss me off, because I don't want to know untrue things. Yeah. Oh, hey, Brainbug. So yeah, that is yeah, so basically they were both working as servants. Nancy, as it turns out, was pregnant. She was the housekeeper. And it was pretty well known that Kinnear and Nancy were doing the deed, and they were not married. We don't know if he harassed Grace or not. Certainly would not have been unusual. The Me Too movement was more than 100 years off, so it wouldn't have been strange at all if that had happened. And wait, who? Yes, I'm saying Alias Grace. I'll show you the cover again. That's the name of the book. Wait a minute. I'm going to show you the cover, and it's going to be back. It's going to be backwards, isn't it? No, it's not. Yay! Why did I think that? I forget how cameras work. So there you go. Yep, there it is. Margaret Atwood. I got it 20% off at Target at some point. Probably when I was going there. My pharmacy is in Target, so sometimes when I go there, like today, I spend too much money because I'm waiting for my prescription to get filled, and I walk around. Yeah, I wanted to pronounce it like differently, and then I realized no, it's just Alias. But and she did use an alias at one point, when they were on the run. She and McDermott were on the run. But yeah, I mean, her story is, you know, just, and she was 16. I know that at the time, you know, that was considered adult, especially for a woman. Like, she was definitely of marriageable age at 16, which is weird. But, you know, in the US at that time, a girl could legally be married to a man at the age of 10. So my country can't throw any stones. And the age of consent in some states in the US to this day is 16. And in some places it's 17. Federally, it's 18. And in a lot of states, it's 18. But especially in, I'll just let y'all guess which part of the country some of those, the age of consent is 16 as states are. Ugh. Also, there are states where you can get married if you're under 18, as so long as you have a written document that gives your parents permission. That shows that, like, they just basically have to sign a legal document saying, yes, my daughter can marry this guy. Utah probably has the weirdest one, and I need to make sure this is still true, but if it is, at least up until a few years ago, you could get married in Utah at 16 if you were a girl and you had your mother's verbal permission. And you didn't have to have any witnesses to that fact. You didn't, nothing. You just so long as you had, that your mom had said, yes, you can get married, then you could. Oh God, yeah. Oh God, that's horrible. Yeah, thank you, Purple. I didn't know it went that young anymore. Ugh. Yes, that would be the South, Amiga Nuts. Yeah, that's my people. When Junk Shop and I got married, it was legal in our state to marry your first cousin, but illegal to marry someone of the same sex. We're all kinds of progressive down here, y'all. Jesus fucking Christ. All right, so oh my gosh, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. All right. Yeah, so still a lot of weirdness. But yeah, it got me thinking about the penal system here, and also just our general, and I mean, part of it is understandable. It's really difficult. I think they've actually narrowed this down to an exact number. I think there's a certain number of people for which we can have empathy, and then at some point our brains have not developed, like, past a certain point where, but it does just sort of become, so when you hear about something awful that happened way far away, you're like, oh, that's terrible. But you don't grieve for it. You don't, it doesn't hurt you the way it hurts you if it's somebody in your own community or someone in your family or a friend. I don't know. There are some repeat performances I certainly wouldn't mind, but I'm not going to say anything else. Junk Shop will get annoyed with me. They are very private. And I should be also. Okay. Before I get myself into trouble, we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to thank my patrons one more time. We got The Lone Wanderer, A Bit of Tea in Danish, Captain Kimothy the Bold, Mark Caesar, and Santi the Sane, and and if you would like to support the channel, give, and also and then you get things like, you get to tell me stuff you'd like to see me doing. Like, I got some great advice from the Lone Wanderer the other day that I absolutely will be implementing on patron only content. If you want access to that, please go to my Patreon. Wine and Reason. It's Patreon. patreon.com/wine&reason, because they Patreon won't let me use the ampersand. And I'm like, it's just a ligature. What's your problem? But I don't know. They wouldn't let me use it. So it's wine&reason. All right. And thank you so much, Amiga Nuts, for shilling everybody. You're awesome. Everybody sub to everybody else if you're not already. If you liked this and haven't subbed, I think you all are, but if you liked this and aren't subbed, please do. That'd be fun. What can we request you do, Critical Cripple? Only stuff that's okay on regular YouTube. And that's my issue, not anyone else's. I have a friend who has an OnlyFans page, and I admire that very much. I'm not your girl for that. I am too self-conscious, and no, thank you. Okay. But yeah, anything that's okay for YouTube is okay by me. Aw, thank you, Harmonica Man. Or you're welcome. I don't know what you're thanking me for, but cool. Oh, and yeah. Oh, and I'm going to be reading Harmonica Man's book soon. So when I do, they're sending me, Harmonica Man is sending me a copy in the mail, and there will be an unboxing. Thank you for you. That reminded me just now. Thank you for that. So once that gets here, there will be an official unboxing on Wine and Reason, and I'm not going to open it until the show goes live, probably next Tuesday. So because it should be here by then. So hey, unboxing fun to look forward to. All right. Well, let's all wrap up our goodbyes and shill everything. I've got some patron-only content coming up this week. I've got evenings with patrons Thursday night at 8 p.m. And I have, or 8 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time. And I am going to have a topic to discuss. I won't just be sitting there going, what should I do? Oh, Brainbug just did some unboxing. Did you get some new creatures? I'm so sorry if I missed it live. I need to go back and watch it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and just so y'all know, if I ever do miss your stuff live, it's not because I want to. I've just having to put a lot of energy into job hunting right now. And once I find a job, but I do go back and watch things when I can. Brainbug got frogs. Cool. Thank you, Never Again. Thank you, Purple. Oh, cool. Just one. Okay. He got a frog. Well, that's cool, though. I like frogs. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate you. You really make everything better. This has been a hard year for everybody, and it keeps getting harder. And we're such a social species, social distancing, everything feels unnatural. Junk Shop and I went to my parents' house to do some of the heavy cleaning that they're a bit long in the tooth to do now yesterday. And we wore masks the whole time, and I wasn't comfortable hugging my mom because, or my dad, because we'd just been to the grocery store, and it sucked. And we talked, but we had a nice discussion about how much it sucked and how unnatural it felt to not, just, yeah. So anyway, hugs and love, virtual hugs and virtual love to everybody in the chat. Yeah, you guys are awesome, and you're really helping with my mental health, for sure. So thank you. All right. And on that note, remember, you won't find truth in wine, but you can find it in reason. Love from Memphis, y'all.